Hi everyone, I'm Dave Parker with Virginia Found. When you travel throughout Virginia, you are always near the beginnings of our nation's history. That is certainly the case with where we are today, and that is in Yorktown. But also in this part of Virginia, you are constantly surrounded by the waterman culture and the delicious food that comes along with it. We have a lot of ground to cover today. We'll take advantage of 21st century technology to tour the 18th century. You'll hear from some of the reenactors here who helped to bring history alive. We'll also set sail on the historic York River. We'll then take you across that river to neighboring Gloucester for local drinks, award-winning barbecue, and see something in a Jubilee you've likely never seen before. Virginia Found is in Yorktown and Gloucester. Let's go. Before we get into all of the historical reenactments happening in Yorktown, we thought we'd start in the present, in Gloucester, by mixing together something that is supposed to clear the mind, yoga, with something that does the opposite, beer. This is That Damn Mary Brewing. Saturday mornings here start with yoga and end with beer. Instead of hot yoga, I guess it's hops yoga.
I expect you there.
This is the woman behind the hops, Mary. It's really easy to like Mary because her personality is as intoxicating as the product.
Make sure to get you some, dude.
So right now, Mary is dry hopping a beer, and it smells like unicorn tears. It's fantastic. But before the potions, there are the poses. Even though it was still well before noon, Mary had lined up a sample of every beer in the place. Rise and shine. So we have to taste all of these beers? Not have to, but get to.
You know it. Are you kidding?
This would be Downward Falling Dog if you taste all of these. So what are we going to taste first?
Yeah, so the operative word is like taste. That way you don't have to drink
I
them all once you are. But yeah, we're going to do one of the first beers that we actually produced on site, and it's a habanero basil pale ale.
So it's got habanero peppers, basil, and you were telling me that you guys like physically...
Yeah, it's called Smack It Like It's Hot because we literally smacked a bunch of basil, about 18 pounds of it. In fact, by the time it was all said and done. Get a little heat on the back of your throat. Another
that is so flavorful.
Oh, thanks.
And yeah, I can really taste the basil there at the beginning. You get the heat at the end.
That's awesome.
That's delicious, even for 11 o'clock in the morning.
It's 5 o'clock.
Actually, especially because it's 11 o'clock in the morning.
It makes it taste twice as good.
Yeah, that is great. And so it went for 13 tastings, a brewer's dozen, from beers named Funked Cluster to Arm Candy, Ditch Digger, and Easy Money. It made it hard to say namaste. Now, I could tell you all about the flavor profiles and all that stuff, but all you need to know is that if you're into beer and you're in Gloucester, Virginia, not going to That Damn Mary Brewing is like not trying the cheese in Wisconsin. MJ, thank you so much.
Thanks so much for coming in
Thank
here,
you.
buddy. It's
And,
really kind of you.
Thank you for the quality beverages.
Anytime.
All right.
You come on back, I'll hook you up again.
It's That Damn Mary. Check her out. The dry part of our crew then took us across this bridge, the George P. Coleman Bridge. Crossing the York River from Gloucester to Yorktown, the Coleman is a double swing span bridge, which is amazing to see when open. It's the largest of its kind in the U.S. Once on the other side, in historic Yorktown, it was time for lunch at Water Street Grill. If you have the chance, try the seating outside for the great views of the river. If you grow up in the South, you end up eating a lot of coleslaw, but I don't think I've ever had a wasabi coleslaw, which they have on the bottom of this oyster po' boy. I've also emptied most of the tartar sauce container on top of this. It's one of these things where the meal is much bigger than your mouth. Good meal for napkins. Really good. Anytime you can get oysters in this part of the country, take advantage of it. And I love that little touch of heat from the wasabi. It's really well done. While most of the sightseeing in historic Yorktown is obviously above ground, much of it couldn't have been possible without the York River. In fact, a lot of that history has been found in the river. Well, I'm not sure how you come from the hills of Kentucky to become a diver here on the York River, but that's what John did. Hey, John, what's your official title?
My official title is Acting State Underwater Archaeologist with the Virginia Department of Historic Resources.
The York River is behind us. How important was that during the Revolutionary War?
This river was incredibly important. The geography here was critical to the outcome of the Battle of Yorktown.
Okay.
Cornwallis, the British commander, chose this area because the river here is naturally very deep, and it allowed an anchorage for the big deep draft warships from up in New York to come down and join Cornwallis and reinforce this position.
How many ships, artifacts, whatever, have been found in the York River?
Well, we have historical information that indicates that at least 26 vessels from the Battle of Yorktown should be out here.
Okay.
And we've just found number 11.
Oh, okay. So
just this past week.
Quite a few to go.
Yes.
And in terms of diving in this river, is it conducive to diving? Is it difficult? What do you think?
You'll never see anything like this on National Geographic. The conditions out here are terrible. It's zero visibility most of the time, very strong currents, and in the summer stinging nettles just to make things worse.
Great.
So we have to use special techniques to work here.
All right, how do you really feel about diving out there, John?
Rather be someplace else, but this is where the history is.
I just happened to be in Yorktown during the Before the Siege weekend. It's an event that simulates Yorktown in late September of 1781, just before American and French forces encircled the British. 3 weeks later, in October of 1781, the British surrendered. Visitors on this weekend will find the streets filled not just with reenactors and their historical interpretations, but tours of colonial buildings, an art fair, and some retro music.
Where they never change their socks, Bonnie heelin' laddie. Way ho and away we'll go, Bonnie laddie, heelin' laddie. Way ho and away we'll go, Bonnie heelin' laddie. Bonnie.
And with it being early fall in Virginia, the weather is usually still nice. But what will stand out the most to you will be these people. I feel horribly underdressed. I'm here with Lynn Bull. Lynn, where are you originally from?
Well, I live in Goldsboro, North Carolina. My dad was in the Navy, so we were all over the place growing up.
All right, so you are a reenactor, is that the right word?
Yes.
Okay, why are you into this? What got you started into this?
My father took me to Gettysburg when I was in third grade, and as he used to put it, it's been downhill ever since.
I gotcha. Now, the outfit that you have on today, it's just a magnificent jacket, robe. What is this called?
It's called a banyan. It's basically a 18th century bathrobe.
Okay.
And we've had a hard day here in Yorktown drilling and looking for patriots that might be smuggling things out. And so at the end of the day, just kind of unwind, take off your wig, take off your wool coat, put on your banyan, and just relax.
Not every reenactor, though, is portraying a particular person. Who is your person? What do you do?
Well, so I'm not really a person. So
Okay.
I know you see a lot of the reenacting world, this idea that everybody's a person.
Right.
But really we're trying to people the past, right? So I'm not pretending to be someone, but kind of placing myself in the past.
Peopling the past. I haven't heard that one yet.
Yeah, right? Because I think we forget that people in the past were people. They're our ancestors, right? They're not people on a stage, not people on a screen, but they're our story, right? They're our people.
This is a sergeant's sword, but it is styled a lot like an officer's small sword. It's got a...
The investment that these reenactors put into their own research and money and time is just, well, it's just fascinating.
I portray the wife of an enlisted man, which would have been the most common woman that you would have seen following the army.
Originally I'm from Scotland, Glasgow. That's where I grew up. I was trained there. And after the unpleasantness of the 1745, I emigrated to America. I served in His Majesty's 60th Regiment of Foot, the first British regiment raised in North America. 7 Years' War. I'm a veteran of that conflict.
So I spent some time studying Yorkshire dialect and learning about what it was to grow up, the life that I had in Yorkshire, because every soldier didn't spring from his mother's womb as a soldier. They all had lives, they all had professions. I've created a fictitious backstory for Miss Sen, Miss Sen being Yorkshire dialect for myself.
It's getting to share my love of history with other people in an educational manner, which is for me I guess my primary purpose in reenacting. I think people do it for a variety of reasons.
As far back as I can remember, I've been totally involved in history-related history-related things. Family would go on vacation, and I want to stop at museums. I want to see historic sites. It's just been something that I've been interested in and focused on up from as far back as I can remember. Like I said, 4 or 5 years old, up until present day.
I do this for what it helps me understand the past was like. Many reenactors do it for what we call the time machine moment, where your level of pain, fatigue, thirst, hunger, heat, all coalesces into a moment when modern day melts away and you are there in the moment. And that moment can last a fleeting second, but those rare instants are the ones that connect me to the past and to history and would keep me coming back and doing this over and over again.
A couple of quick mentions while we're walking down American History Lane. The American Revolution Museum at Yorktown is just outside the downtown historic area. It's a sprawling, comprehensive experience with exhibits both inside and out. There's also the Yorktown Battlefield Museum. And no visit here would be complete without a close-up view of the towering, majestic Yorktown Victory Monument. If you'd like to either be introduced to or expand your knowledge on this pivotal time in U.S. history, these are great places to include in your visit here. As far as lodging in historic Yorktown, there are 3 bed and breakfasts, a hotel, and 2 cottages, with a large number of accommodations available in the surrounding area.
You really just have to trust this thing, and it takes everybody a different amount of time. Some people pick it up really quick. I wasn't one of those early adopters, so I have a lot of patience with people that don't. But once you do...
The headline for this next segment is When Centuries Collide, since we'll be touring historic Yorktown on a Segway. I had never ridden one, but with just a few minutes practice, it was as routine as a colonial soldier loading a musket. I think I got it. Let's go tour Yorktown.
Let's go find out.
Randy Pryor with Patriot Tours and Provisions was both my teacher and tour guide. Since Segways are amazing little off-road vehicles, they are perfect for being able to explore all the streets and paths of the colonial area. And for those who don't want to or physically can't spend a large part of their day walking, it's a great option. Better yet, it allows you to see some spots you may not have otherwise. Sometimes the best kind of stories are little known and little visited, and here's one from historic Yorktown. Randy, take it away.
All right, so this place that we're at has been here in Virginia for a long time, and it's William Rogers Pottery Factory. And he
looks like this.
Okay. He is known as the Poor Potter. Well, it turns out he was anything but the Poor Potter, and if you come down here and check it out, you're gonna see one of the biggest kilns they ever found in the colony and find out that this thing was essentially the first assembly line on the continent. So William Rogers was anything but a Poor Potter, but you gotta come here to figure out why.
And he was doing like kickbacks to the customs guy, right?
That's right, that's how he got the name of the Poor Potter. He was giving kickbacks to the official that was writing to the king, telling him what was going on here in Yorktown, because the king needed all his tax dollars. So it worked out really well for him and the locals.
In addition to Randy showing me around some of the historic buildings and also along the river, we got off the Segways for another seldom told history lesson. Hey, see this field? Back in the 1920s, this actually used to be a golf course. Then there was a stock market crash. People stopped playing golf as much. National Park Service took it over and saved history. So instead of the stock market making history in 1929, when it comes to Yorktown, it kind of saved it. So I've never been a big fan of the walking tours, and actually, you know, a lot of people can't do the walking tours because of maybe some type of physical disability, and that's where the Segway comes in. Man, I love that, and it is very intuitive. So if you've ever looked at that, I don't know if I can do that, you can do it. Check out Randy. Randy had a great time, and thanks for showing me some of those private spots here in Yorktown.
Man, it was my pleasure, Dave. Thanks for not crashing.
If people want to find Patriot Tours, what's the best way to do that?
www.patriottoursva.com. We've got our schedules, safety videos. Check it out because it's easier than you might imagine.
There's a section of historic Yorktown we haven't touched on yet, and that's the Riverwalk Landing. As the name implies, it's sort of a boardwalk along the river and also beach. Event organizers make sure that visitors have plenty of music in the background, which seems to suit both human and non-human alike. The Riverwalk Landing is where you'll also find a 105-foot gaff-rigged ship, the Alliance. It sails 3 times daily from Riverwalk Landing Pier from April to November. It's $39 per adult, $27 for children 12 and under, with no children's discount for their sunset cruise. If getting out on the water on a beautiful ship for a few hours, hearing a little about the history of the area.
It was a 4-mile-an-hour world. If you wanted to travel somewhere and you could do any kind of a trip and average 4 miles an hour, you were doing pretty well.
All while getting some great content for your Facebook or Instagram is something you had in mind. The Alliance is a great way to enjoy a few hours in this part of Virginia. For our last day in Yorktown and Gloucester, it was back across the Coleman Bridge to the Gloucester side to find those who were spending part of their day on a boat or a pier. Since water is what defines this part of Virginia, taking full advantage of it means having access to a boat, something other than the schooner Alliance. For those who do have a boat, Gloucester Point Landing is the main recreational put-in that's near the bridge. For those without, the nearby fishing pier is the next best option. Man, I love to fish, but maybe not as much as Cecil does. He drove all the way down to Gloucester from Richmond. How's the fishing?
Fishing is good.
All right.
Fishing is good.
So
Atmosphere is beautiful.
What have you caught?
I caught a few blowtoes.
Uh-huh.
Called chicken of the sea.
Oh, yeah, I love those things. All right.
And that's pretty much it.
Good luck to Cecil. Safe drive back, by the way.
Okay, thank you, man. Appreciate it.
It didn't look like many were going to be having fresh fish for lunch. Fortunately, there's an award-winning backup plan just a few miles down the road. Yesterday when I was in Yorktown, I asked a couple of the locals, so what's a great place to eat? And they said, well, make sure you head over the bridge to Gloucester and try Scoot's Barbecue, voted best barbecue in Virginia. That's a pretty good recommendation.
Hi, welcome to Scoot's.
Wings, brisket, pork, chicken, ribs, sausage, turkey, oh my. And given where we are in the state, there's even fresh local seafood. When's the last time you saw that at a barbecue place? If you're wondering about the unique name, Scoots was the nickname of one of the owner's grandfathers, so the restaurant is a nod of remembrance to him. It's the barbecue man, the man of Scoots, Gary Ward. Gary, thank you so much for having me, by the way.
Oh man, appreciate it. Glad to have you.
So I am not an aficionado of barbecue.
Yeah.
I know you've got entire cooking shows dedicated to that.
Right.
If there's like the top 2 or 3 things about serving a good barbecue,
right,
which is probably different than cooking it, but serving a good barbecue, what are those top couple of things?
Yeah. Well, you know, it all starts with the quality of the product.
Yeah.
You know, you got to get a good piece of meat, whether it's pork, ribs, chicken, brisket. So we try to start at a really high level of product.
Okay.
Once you get there, you know, it's a matter of getting the right seasonings. We make our own rub. We tend to use a rub that's got a little extra brown sugar in it.
Okay.
We found that our clientele likes things a little bit sweeter.
Sure.
Plus, it gives it a really nice bark. After you get into that, you know, the temperature and time. You know, when we smoke our stuff, we do it at 225 degrees with hickory and oak wood. Let it run for about 14 hours.
Yeah, because at that temperature, that's got to be over a long period of time.
And got to be constant, and that is the trick.
Okay.
And then beyond that, it's just, you know, I tell people all the time, it's like caring. You know, you got to really care about the product.
All of that caring tastes delicious. First thing you'll notice about their pulled pork sandwich is how juicy it is, not a hint of dryness. If brisket is more your style, that was also fantastic. For sides, I had the collards, coleslaw, and I admit it, I also tried the onion rings and cornbread. It was a great meal, and it's no wonder that people all over this area agree. With your belly full, you might want to head to a place where you can do some walking around. A short 15-minute drive north will take you to downtown Gloucester. It's small, so you can walk from end to end in about 10 minutes, but there's plenty of shops to explore. And since Virginia is for craft beer lovers, there is a microbrewery on Main Street, Gloucester Brewing Company. Locally owned, locally brewed. As a reminder of where you are in the state, you'll get to taste beers named Smooth Sailing and Shucking Good. At one end of the downtown area, you'll find the Gloucester County Courthouse Square Historic District, which includes a gift shop and buildings dating back to the late 1700s. For those of you who would like to spend part of your time in this area camping, there are a few options, including a Thousand Trails location about 20 minutes north of downtown Gloucester. While Thousand Trails used to be membership only, you can now enjoy single-use stays. Not only is it on the water, this is a great place for the whole family.
Oh, look at that.
While I love to travel, I also fully realize there are many places I've never seen in my own hometown. There are also many places I've never even heard of, like Guinea. It's a group of communities in Gloucester County, although it's long been considered an area somewhat separate from the county. The character of this place is defined by centuries of working the water. If you're in Guinea, your first stop should be at Buck's Store Museum, which is now run by the Guinea Heritage Association. It's basically the area's history within four walls. It's a nice little walk down memory lane. I just happened to be in town for the 40th Guinea Jubilee, advertised as honoring our past, celebrating our future. The whole thing is really about celebrating the waterman culture here. Which is why one of the events is crab pot pulling.
The idea is to pull the crab pot up, take the flap open, dump out the crabs, rebait the crab pot, and throw it back down on the ground in the shortest amount of time.
Now, what's a good time?
Good time?
Yep.
Well, today it's been, I think today's closest one was 28 seconds. So that's the fastest issue. I have seen it as much as 24, 25 seconds, pulling both of them. That's pulling them every day.
Perfect, you got it.
Drop them!
There you go, it's good, you're good, you're good.
You got a timer here, come on! Turn him over!
Good shot. 38
seconds.
Of course, somebody has to make the crab pots, which is a talent in itself.
How long does it take to make a crab pot?
I used to turn one in 30 minutes, but that was when I was younger.
So now you're about 35 minutes? 31.
Well, you'll find some of the standard Jubilee food. Since we're in Guinea, you'll also find fresh, local seafood. You know, the kind that people are willing to drive miles to enjoy. All right, we just found out something very important. Do you make your clam chowder with canned clams, or do you hand shuck them?
All fresh, hand shucked clams.
There you go. The Guinea Jubilee is usually held the last weekend in September and is worth working into your travel schedule. Just as a reminder that there is history all around us in this part of Virginia, this was the jail in Gloucester in 1873. Well, we certainly showed you two very different areas today, but only separated by one bridge. We've got the historic area around Yorktown, and then of course we have the more rural and waterman culture of Gloucester. There's plenty to keep you busy, not just for a day, but an entire weekend. Have a great trip. I'm Dave Parker for Virginia Found.